Hi, good evening. Welcome once again to the Gildarie Freddie Kissoon Show. We also coming to you live on YouTube. You can get it there on the Guyanese Critic page or TBN, Daybreak News, right on YouTube. Wherever you are, whatever it is that you're doing tonight, I hope that you're having a lovely night, a lovely morning. I want to say good night, good morning to you and your family. And like before, still very early in the month, I want to say Happy New Year's if you join us for the first time. Wherever you are, this is, like I said before, the Gildarie Freddie Kissoon Show, and we're going to hit this. We've said it before, and we're going to say it again. We're hitting this year running, hitting the ground running, because there's so many very important things to discuss this year. It's going to be a watershed year as far as infrastructure projects and a lot of things that's happening. And never before in the history of this country has such a year been so very important when it comes to development, because we're going to be seeing this year the launch in a very few months of the Harbour Bridge project, that Demerara Harbour Bridge. We're probably going to see the Quarantine Bridge, and we're going to see the East Coast Road being launched as well, the Marlborough Linden Latham Road, and we have so many other projects, maybe that natural gas plant across the river there at Wales, likely to be launched this year as well. So lots of stuff that's happening when it comes to the people, the development of the country and the people's welfare. Those are things that is going to be in the front burner that we have to discuss. What are we benefiting from? But before we get into that, today we will be discussing some very important things that transpired in 2022. But I'm not going to say any much more with that, because we have our co-host, my good friend Freddie Kissoon here tonight. I want to say good night, Freddie Kissoon. Okay. I like your tie, sir. So over to you.
Good evening, good day, wherever you are. We have a strange contradiction this evening. The two hosts, Gildarie and I, are the two guests. To put it another way, we'll be talking about 2022, and we'll be giving our analyses, viewpoints, opinions, descriptions. For the past 6 months we've been doing this program, it has taken two formats. People call in, and the calls have been incessant, so we don't get time to expand. Somebody asks Gildarie something, somebody asks me why the ship is shaped like that, and before you could explain to him why the ship is shaped like that, the callers come through, and you have to give priority to the callers. The other format is the interview. So over the 6 months, we haven't left time for us to give our own take on things. Now, when Gildarie was at the Kaicho News, he did a weekly column in which he wrote in things how he felt, services, the police. So for the past 6 months, we haven't been able to sit down over here and say, listen, Leonard Gildarie, Freddie Kissoon, don't think this thing should have been like this. Let me give you my reason. I have 8 points why this shouldn't happen. We haven't been able to do that. So this evening, what we are going to do is give our take on the contents of 2022 in Guyana, both negative and positive. Well, for me, as a human rights activist, I mean, that's in my DNA. I'm like a ferret. I peep in and seek into anything where there's some violation. So there are things that, penetrated and lacerated my psyche in 2022. And Gildarie have the same position. So we will start. Gildarie will give his take. He will have his share of the program about 2022. And so will I. So I will start by looking at one thing of 2022 that I felt satisfied with on a personal level, and then he will take over, and then I will come back with some of the things that I found distasteful, disturbing, and revealing in 2022. But for 2022, I think one of the things that pleased me is the way Gildarie's presence has taken off. I spent 15 years working with Gildarie people say to call him Leonard. I'm just accustomed for the past 50 years. I sat next to him when I was doing a short stint as editor of the letter pages of Kite Show. We sat next to each other just like this. And I would say, hey, Gildarie, man, hey, Gildarie. And so it's stuck with you. But one of the things I'm pleased with in 2022 is the return of Gildarie to the media. As I said before in this program, I think the two leading journalists of 21st century Guyana have been Dale Andrews, who died suddenly, and Gildarie. I saw the commitment in both of them that I haven't seen in all the other daily newspapers and the online newspapers. And last April, where we always kept in touch when he left, and last April we were talking, and I said, look, you have to come back into the media. You've just disappeared. Of course, he was into his business thing, and thankfully his business thing has taken off in 2022. And for the past 6 months, we've been doing this program. And as I told Minister Charles Ramson that was in the studio off camera, I'm with my dog in the seawall, and people would stop and say, hey, Freddie, I don't see the guy here. I always see you in the park, I always see you driving, I always see you in the seawall, but I don't see Gildarie, man. And I have this friend, this doctor friend who said, listen, I'm having an event at my home. Could you bring Gildarie? And of course we were to go. And then my knees collapsed and I was at the public hospital. So I'm glad Gildarie has returned to the media because I think he's a fine journalist. And I'm glad that his business and businesses, because he told me he's looking at other things, have taken off. You know, I sat next to Gildarie and I saw how Gildarie started Kite Show Radio. You have to give Jack his jacket. Gildarie put that radio on the footing it is now. We sat next to each other working at Kite Show, and I saw Gildarie. He was editing, he had to do a column, he was doing his journalistic work, and he was in charge of the region meaning Guyana, reporters. And I just looked at Gildarie's salary one month and I said, no, this can't be right. But you'll be shocked to know I've been writing for Kite Show News for 28 years, and I haven't had a salary increase for 12 years. But I'm glad in 2026, one of the things that I'm glad about in 2026 is
2022.
2022. What am I saying? 2022?
I don't know.
I know there's some Freudian slip. When Gildarie comes in, I will come back and tell you about some of my disappointments in 2022. And then I think we should talk about the origin of this program, how it got, why we wanted it, why Gildarie wanted it. He will tell you why I wanted it. I think I've said enough, and back to Gildarie.
I had a reporter, I can't call his name on this show, that used to be with me at Kite Show News. And one of the things, I learned that term, and it kind of stuck in my head, Freddie. Public masturbation. I'm one who don't normally like to talk about myself too much.
No, you let other people do about your chest. I don't like
I like to keep a low profile. But last year would have been a very gut-wrenching year. It would have been a year that I didn't think that I could have really pulled the hours that I did. And with this program on, I didn't know. I said, what the hell am I doing? Because it was an addition, not to the burdens that I have, but I think it was something else that really pushed me to the max. And sitting down here, I had to make it part of my routine that I come down here and get everything. You learn time management, but coming back 2022 for me, Freddie, because I don't want to waste time here. It was a very interesting year for me, and I would say interesting because you could look at it several angles. As personal growth, you could look at it from the political side of things, because you and I touch a lot on that. Let's talk about the politics in Guyana. One of the things that left me very sad last year was the posture of our politicians, and this is something that is gonna you and I are going to have conversations about this coming forward to the years that are going to come, maybe up to 2025. I think this is going to be something that's going to bite us in the rear. And what is that exactly? I think the non-cooperation or the little cooperation that we have in between the government and the opposition, and you and I would have had, I think, leader of the opposition, Aubrey Norton, a few weeks back. And I was interested in asking him a question, which was, are you ever going to shake the president's hand? And there's a reason why I asked the leader of the opposition that. It was designed to show, is there anything at all that you could cooperate with the government with? And my heart was not in the right place when I heard the answer that, in essence, what the leader of the opposition said is that I don't think there's anything in the world that could make me shake the president's hand, because the criteria that he put down to the table to us is that there's nothing that Irfan Ali or Jack Deo could do that would make me shake his hands. The problem that you have with that kind of posture is that we are at a crossroad at a very, probably the most dynamic time in this country. We have oil in abundance. Gas is going to be here very shortly. Development is taking place on unprecedented levels. We are ahead of the entire Caribbean when it comes to growth. And you mean to tell me in all of this that we can't find common grounds to develop this country? That for me was one of the most profound kind of statement coming from the leader of the opposition. I hope he rethinks his posture, and for me that's 0 points for him. I want to say that right off the bat. There were some good things that happened last year that when it comes to the government, lots of good things. I fast forward to 2023, the MOCA issue, which we're going to have a discussion on that, because that spells a kind of culture in this country that is going to be another thing. If we don't take that turn out of our side, we are going to end up in more trouble. But for me last year, that was one of the things that really, really ached me, hurt me, and I believe we're in the wrong place and we have the wrong kind of mentality if we're going to walk that road.
All right. Let's get into the contents of 2022. I started my contribution on a personal level. I was satisfied. We were friends. We became friends at Kaichona. I'm satisfied the way your life has come, especially your return to the media. I will continue with the personal and then hand back to you. The reason why I'm sitting here is 2 incidents occurred last year at the Kaicho News. And I said to myself, I've been there too long to be stifled. And I need space. I need another forum to say things that should be said that the Kaicho News did not allow me to. Of course, when we open the lines next week or week after, people can ask me why I stayed. There's a reason why I stayed. But 2 incidents happened, and I said, no, I need another forum. The 2 incidents are, after 50 years, governments release reports, investigations, and the reports of their intelligence agencies, what have you. That's by law. You have to release them. And I read the intelligence reports of the British spy agency MI6, and it brought out what the British government was spying on the PPP government, the PPP party in the early 50s. And the released documents showed that there was a spy in the PPP's leadership that the spy agency nicknamed Lascar, Lascar. Well, I read some of the documents and I concluded that it was Martin Carter that was spying for the British government in the PPP leadership.
The poet?
Now, yes. Now, at that, one has to remember that Martin Carter became very famous, very respected in the 70s. We are talking about Martin Carter as a young politician in the 50s. So Mrs. Jagan died, Chetty Jagan died, and so many PPP leaders died, and they didn't have access to the release of those intelligence reports by the British government. So I read those reports and I concluded it was Carter, especially some of the things Carter did. Carter picketed the Queen's relative. Carter said he was openly a Stalinist. And if you could be so insulting to the British monarchy, you could be an admirer of the dictator for Russia, Stalin. How come the British government was employing you in their office in Guyana and Gaisuku?
Contradiction.
So I wrote a column in which I said I think Martin Carter was a spy, and then I looked at the contradictions of Carter, that this guy was supposed to be a communist, but he was a darling of the white establishment. So that was it. The column went, it was published, etc. It was a couple of months after a high-level Guyanese professor from New York called me to tell me, I can't find that Martin Carter thing. I read it online when you wrote it, but I'm going through all the columns and it's not there. I said, well, I read my columns online. It was published. So I called the editor-in-chief, who's a personal friend. Well, she's no longer the editor-in-chief, Charmaine. So I said, Charmaine Granger is her name. I said, Charmaine, that column on Martin Carter, a guy is doing research and he can't find it. And she told me, somebody concerning Carter, some admirer for Carter, whatever, called Mr. Lal, and Mr. Lal took out the article. So I said, Charmaine, that is history. I did my research, and I'm writing about something that occurred at the beginning of the 50s. Why would Mr. Lal want to take that out? I mean, Mr. Lal never called me. Why didn't he publish? The people concerned publish a rebuttal. She said, and I said, this is nonsense. I have been writing for that paper from the beginning. I did a piece of historical research, and somebody could just call Mr. Glenn Lal, and it's thrown out. So I felt that was a low point in my Kaicho career. And then something obnoxious happened. I read a letter in the papers by a group called Article 13, in which the letter referred to me as a coward. And I was prodigiously angry. Even people who hate me in this country would not call me a coward. I almost lost my life twice in this country, and a group of people who was never touched by the government in my ear called me a coward. And I said, these people are, some of these people, so I can avoid libel, not Article 13, some of the people in Article 13 are worms and insects to refer to me as a coward. So I replied quite respectfully, and it didn't appear in the papers. So I called Charmaine again, and Charmaine said, no. Article 13 contacted Mr. Lal, and Mr. Lal said, your reply must not go. And there and then I said, look, I need another forum so I could talk about Martin Carter. I could talk about some of the worms and insects in Article 13, the organization. And thus we have this program, and there be thousands of people listen and view it. And so I can express how I feel about Martin Carter, about so-called democratic people like some of those in Article 13. So that was one of the lowest points for me in 2020. But it's a point, it was a low point in which I elevated myself, because here I am with Gildarie, and I could express how I feel. I think Martin Carter was one of the most hypocritical politician the Caribbean produced, that a man can say he's a communist, yet was working, says a communist, and was working with bookers, the aristocracy in Guyana. Now I could say what I think of Article 13. When Novice Ritter was here, I produced a tape, and that tape is devastating to the image of some of the people in Article 13, and I will release it. Having that is the second thing about 2020. I was personal. When I come back, I will deal with the impersonal, with some of the things of 2020, both positive and negative. For 2020, on the positive side, before I hand over to Gildarie, I think the president is going in the right direction, and I think Mr. Anil Nandalal is proving to be the kind of juggernaut I've always perceived him to be. We're over to Gildarie.
Freddie, one of the beautiful things about this country that I'm seeing that I feel very good is the fact that social media and the various platforms have allowed the development of the voices that should be heard.
Yeah.
And I've seen that in recent years, and this is something that we should push, we should foster in this country to develop, because it's only when you have the different views, then you're going to have ideas and you have the education of the masses. A man told me one time, he says, you don't have to conform to everything that everybody says. If you have the views which are directly, or the contrarian view, it allows you to develop as a person, and it allows the people to see something different. And this is what this program is all about. You and I would have had last year, or the last 6 months or so, difference of opinions. And this is what is good in this country. We should not have to agree with what President Ali is doing. We could agree to disagree. We don't have to agree with what the leader of the opposition is doing. We could say that you guys are public servants and therefore you have to conform, or you should at least give the respect to the people who would have voted you in, and that is all I'm saying. That being the case, 2022 for me, two of the biggest things that I think that the president or the PPP did not look at, or did not pay attention, or should have moved a little more into, was the city of Georgetown. And when I talk about Georgetown, I'm talking about the cleanliness, about traffic situation, and the issue of trafficking there. While we would have passed some laws to deal with death by dangerous driving and make it almost a manslaughter charge right now, I believe these are two things that when people come into the country and when they see the craziness that's happening on the roads, if we don't fix the situation, we're going to have runaway. It's the same thing like squatting. But coming back to the cleanliness of Georgetown, I believe that as a good, responsible government, the president and his cabinet has the responsibility for the city of Georgetown. I saw a letter from you, Bradzarine, Mayor of Georgetown, a few hours back. He's writing President Ali, asking for meeting because he believes that the government is not doing justice or giving him enough attention or allowing him to be part of the developmental process. So he's written the president, and he's asked for a meeting. Now the problem that I have, for years, donkey years growing up, I'm going to be 50 this year, Freddie Kissoon. And I'm going to tell you, I'm very disappointed. I had an uncle that came in the country. We met last night. He says, I walked down my board on Regent Street, and he says, I'm heavily disappointed in what I'm seeing. The city stinks, Freddie Kissoon. That's what he says. And this is not something that I want to listen. It doesn't matter whether it's my uncle or not. Somebody who's not living here comes into the country. I want to hear good things about my country. I expect my government to not have the situation that occurred in 2022. 2022, we have the resources now. If the MNCC can't do it, there got to be a way that we have to find to start cleaning up the city, cleaning up the parks, getting rid of all those people who terrorize the people walking the thing and picking the pockets and robbing them, choke and rob. Imagine now, we in 2023, Freddie Kissoon, people being robbed. I saw a pensioner on Rob Street being kicked down on the ground. This happened like a few weeks back. They found it, you know that it's young people, but this is a pensioner. Here is a conflicting thing here. A pensioner and some young people who barely out of the teens or something robbing this guy. The police fortunately found them. But guess what? We still have that happen in 2023, and guess what? We have cameras all around the place. You know, technology is so very simple. How much you believe for a camera? And we can't get it right. We can't clean the city up to now. If the city council can't do it, the president needs to step in. That is something that really needs to be addressed.
I want to make it quite clear on this program. When I made reference to insects and worms in Article 13, let me make it clear, I don't want to get a libel. I don't believe all the people in Article 13 are insects and worms. So I make it clear, I name nobody, and I'm saying some. So which means there are some people that are not in that category, just to make sure I get my, about 2022. Yes, I think the government will have to have a retreat and sit down and talk about the garbage in Georgetown. It appears to me, well, no, I take that back. It is clear to me, as someone who studies power in Guyana and politics, I believe it's the city council stratagem of embarrassing the government. And they are going to do that to good effect, and they're doing it to good effect. No one coming into this country will give it a good name when they see, that thing, there isn't an adjective that you could use to really convey what you see in the city. I saw that thing by Border Market. You don't want to walk in Georgetown.
You can't.
You don't want to, and I think it's a stratagem to embarrass the government. This is what I feel should happen in an oil economy. I think the government should bite the bullet and say, listen, although this is city council's jurisdiction, this affects the image of the government of Guyana. This affects the image of a president who will build a legacy that will put him in the category of Burnham, Jagan, Hoyt, and Rodney. And I think the government should say, listen, we are going to show them that this stratagem of perpetual embarrassment isn't going to work. We are going to clean up it. Now, I don't know how much that will cost. I don't know where the labor is going to come from, if the Ministry of Public Works would have that kind of labor. I don't know if you have to go back to Parliament to get a budget for that. But my advice to the government of Guyana is it is a stratagem by City Council. It happened 10 years ago. It happened 15 years ago. It's one of the PNC way of fighting. And that thing is going to get so terrible that Exxon may very well say, no, we can't work in a country like this. It is so terrifying. It is so horrible. It is so semi-civilized that the government has to have a retreat and decide what we're going to do with this garbage. Because I tell you what, Gildarie, even in a country with civil war, that thing, it may happen during the civil war, and after the war is over, they clean up. But what I am seeing is just indescribable, and it called for immediate intervention by the central government.
Thank you very much. Traffic situation again. When I left Kaiser News, I think in last year or the year before, I think it was.
You left in
2021.
Early 2021.
Right. There was about, according to figures from the GRA, 10,000 vehicles, and we're not talking motorbikes here, we're just talking vehicles that are registered. At least 10,000 vehicles are registered in Guyana every single year.
Oh my
Freddie Kissoon, two things I want to point out. I passed by the police station, I think, was it Providence? Or was it one of the outposts on East Bank? And I looked in and I saw 3 cars, and I believe they're police cars. Very black. The front windscreen is totally obscured.
They're allowed to have that.
I'm
for
not
security
sure.
reasons.
No. The entire windscreen?
Yeah, but that's security.
Well, me don't know about that.
Diplomats and the police are allowed that. Ministers
The police
are allowed
ranks?
that. Not the ordinary police ranks. No.
Well, let me tell you
No,
this.
the police vehicles, the anti-crime vehicles.
Right, that's a different thing.
Yeah.
But you don't expect to tell me that a traffic police, who's a servant on the road, is expected to drive one of those things.
No, but we need to clarify that.
No, I'm going to clarify that.
If a police,
I am told,
if a
because
policeman cannot have
I'm
that,
told that as an ordinary police.
No, but if he cannot, if he's serving the state as a police and he cannot, I don't think he should have that black windscreen. No. But the amount of people with that black windscreen, Gildarie, I came from the seawall this afternoon. I'm on the seawall with my dog. and you should see the black windscreens.
Why do you need?
And it means that those people are untouchable. Gildarie, I am telling you, I swear, my dog is perambulating the seawall, and I sit and I look at those cars passing. Gildarie, black tinted windows where you cannot see people inside is more possessed by civilians than by police people.
No, but that I don't have any figures, but I want to tell you, hold on.
Tomorrow I'm taking you on the seawall.
There's a couple of things that goes along with that. The police, well, you don't come to the police yet. Have you ever tried driving with a tinted windscreen? I got a friend, we went up into the bush and they got a tinted windscreen. I said, well, why do you tint? They said it's because we bring out gold. So maybe they had a special arrangement.
Some people allow that.
So,
and
but hold on,
justified.
when you look on the outside, you don't know whether it's night or day. So imagine you in the night driving with that. But
I think there's a... I think they have a it's like transition glass. I think inside when you look out, you can see.
You can see, but it's very difficult. Let me tell you this.
I don't know. I've never experienced it. I don't have
it is difficult. It reduces the vision. But I was making a point, Freddie, when I was talking about that. We were putting up the screens in these bank on those overpass, and I was speaking to a traffic rank, and the traffic rank says, we were talking about the trucks are passing up and down, and I have nothing but trucks working. I have an issue with the way that they drive on the road, the speed with they drive on the road, and the nonsense they're doing on the road. You got to see the speed. So the man says, do you know that we stopped a couple of them, and these guys are just finishing the 20s, and they have truck license. And it says when we stop them, they pick up the phone and call, and they get it. How did they get a license when they just reached 20? I bring these 2 points to you because we receive 10,000 vehicles at least every single year, and we're going to see more increase there. And what you believe is going to happen on the road if we don't fix the traffic situation in Guyana, the lawlessness that happens on the road, the undertaking, the kind of road rages happening, the speeding. Freddie Kissoon win some serious thing because it is an indication, it's evidence that we as a people don't understand how to keep it in the law.
If any police officer is viewing this program, including the hierarchy, I was driving this morning and I saw the traffic chief. I kind of like that fellow for a reason, I'll tell you. And I said, man, you got to come on the program. And he said, look, I have to get permission. And I've been trying to get the traffic chief on this program, and I have to go through the police commissioner. And I went through the crime chief, I went through the public relations officer, and Mr. Ramatar, and
I'm not sure what is happening.
But we got to go back to looking at 2022.
I like Mr. Hicken, what he's doing, but there were some stories and rumors that used to circulate over the years. There were commanders who were sitting in the various divisions and actually sending out ranks to bring back. No, let me say it, Freddie Kissoon.
I will tell you why.
Box hands. At the end of the day, you got to bring in so much money into the thing. It isn't traffic tickets that you issue. This is money that everybody throw in a box hand. So that is, look, there's some in fact, one of the things that stood out last year, and I want to say publicly that I was very, very happy. Traffic ranks on the East Bank, and I know on the East Coast too. I can't speak too much on about what's happening on the East Coast. Did a fantastic job of managing the traffic, because you got to see, rain or shine, these guys are out there and they're doing at the head of Diamond, at the DSL turn, at the Harbor Bridge. Fantastic job, Freddie Kissoon. Even you see senior traffic officials are there with them, with the cones and everything. Everything is clockwork, and they did a fantastic job. So it isn't that the police force is missing good people. They're good people, but there are also a lot of folks who are just hell-bent on just being corrupt. And you can't, but I know that Hickens, as Commissioner of Police, Mr. Hickens, that he has indicated certain postures, how he wants to
Please call him and tell him to give the traffic chief permission to pay the public.
We could ask them to come. But those are two things. Traffic and the cleanliness of Georgetown, and the government needs to do something. These are, I think, crisis situation. I would say crisis situation in this country right now that needs urgent attention. Because when people come into a country, you can build all the roads. If the people and the police and everybody don't come together and start solving the situation, and you have a system with driver's license and being managed or being dispensed in a better manner than what it is happening right now, we're going to see the nonsense that's happening right now continue for years.
Well, as we're looking at 2022, I think one of the things that has become a cancer, and it was a volcano in 2022, is noise nuisance. It is clear to me that noise nuisance is not being confronted by the Environmental Protection Agency, the police force, and the government of Guyana. I don't think none of those three sections of society have decided and have agreed that we will go in a no-nonsense way in noise nuisance. Now, when my problem in 2022 with this country is, Gildarie, it really breaks my heart when I see how uneven the law is applied, how uneven power is used. I grew up all my life with this fight for equality, but most of all, as a poverty-stricken guy growing up in South Georgetown in Watermanville, not having eat for days and weeks, it concerns me when I see people like me, not getting the recognition that we all equal above the law. I live opposite the movie town. I know there are people in their 70s and 80s. My neighbor is 80 years of age. And to think that you could have a concert from 8 in the night until 5 in the morning, Gildarie, that music was tormenting people. Now, Gildarie, even if you go over the 12 o'clock thing by 1 o'clock, Gildarie, that thing stopped at 5 o'clock, and it was somebody who is very close to the government, and they had to get permission from the police. These are the things that trouble me in 2022. That first of all, that person who's offended the government should know that he's embarrassing the government, and should know that he will cause the government to lose support when you go to bombard Patterson, Commons Lodge, Industry, Turkine, Liliendal, where thousands of people live, with music, Gildarie, from 8 to 5, and not anything that is just loud, just explosively loud. These are some of the things. You know, last year something happened, and I felt so angry that when it came out the Sunday, I did a column the Monday. It came out the Saturday. I saw the Ministry of Public Works put out an edict saying the parapets must be cleared of encumbrances, people selling dog food in the parapet, wash bay, and we're telling you from Monday we will be removing those things. And I wrote a column. That edict came out the Saturday. I wrote a column the Monday that was entitled, "I am too old now to fight with Minister Edgehill," because I know in my heart that policy would not have been applied to people that are rich, wealthy, with status, that encumber the pavement, just as the wash bay boys, just as the people selling dog food. And my thing about 2020 is I didn't see the law being applied evenly. And once I have a pen and once I have a voice, everybody must be equal in the eyes of the law. I will come back in columns and on this program of what I saw at one of the most decent police officers in this country, how he was treated by Banks DIH. no government, no society should tolerate one of the highest ranking professional police being treated by a multi-billion-dollar company like that. So that is my concern, how people should be treated. And the thing with the tint, the thing with noise nuisance, the thing with policemen, those things should be confronted in a way that makes the society feel that the rule of law applies to everyone. And I'm telling you this, Gildarie, I'm 72 years of age. I fought my whole life for human rights. It began at 16 when I was a polling agent for the PPP in the 1968 general election. Once I have my voice and my pen, I am going to write about situations where the rule of law applies unequally, and the brunt of it is borne by people who are poor and powerless.
Thank you very much. And Freddie, you talk about the Ministry of Public Works and what happened there. On the East Bank, I think at Macdoom, those folks that live along the East Bank would know at Macdoom there's a tire shop.
I know that.
It used to be down this way, and then it gone down the way almost to the Two Brothers gas station.
I know the tire shop.
At Bagotstown, Freddie Kissoon, we have a carriageway which has 2 lanes. And imagine there's 2 tire shops. That is, one is at Macdoom, and I don't have any issue with people earning a living.
You shouldn't.
You're talking about when you start talking about squatting and the rule of law and even-handedness. These are the issues, because you're gonna come and move a man, and but you ain't moving those people for the long time. We've created the point that I'm trying to make.
Well, you sure the man ain't got contact? Those people ain't got contact?
Me don't know about that, but I know the road is being reduced to 1 lane. If you're in the Macdoom area and you don't know that road there, you're going to hit down somebody. Because the truck stop right there, the guy comes, he squats over and is thinking, and he doesn't care what is coming there. But you knock down the guy, you end up in the police station. And you might end up get charged with dangerous driving too. But hold on. Right along the entire East Bank, we're talking about squatting here, Freddie Kissoon, because there's another peeve that I have. We've allowed over the years squatting to take place in all over this country. You want me to tell you something? For this government to solve that problem, there got to be a holistic approach. And I'm not sure what is going to happen. The market situation that happened there, that's just an indicative of what's going to come within years. You go into the hinterlands and see you left your gold bush there, or you got a little block of mining lands. By the time you turn your back, so somebody gone in. It's a culture that we have here because the land is not theirs, but they don't really care. They see a piece of land, they go and do it. Now, I'm not saying that the people don't have a need, but it is something that we always believe that if here's a shorter way or easy way of doing it, man, no matter with Freddie Kissoon or Gildarie or Finale, we're going to do it because we can take it. Eventually, they're going to give us a piece of land. And you see what happened in Mocha there is because people believe, or they have a need, and they believe that this is the way. But what about you and me who put in for a house lot? Didn't we go through the right procedure? You mean everybody else that wants
I never got a house lot.
Right, but why didn't you?
I don't mind having.
But if you want a house lot, there's a procedure to do that.
Yeah.
So, but because we have been accustomed over the years, and this is not knocking on anybody, I'm just talking about the culture here. We have got to start changing. If you want to talk about a country which is filled with rules and regulations, and the rules and regulations work, you can't talk about the even-handed, and then you, on the other hand, you got a family guy and the squatting in the reserve, and you say nothing but it. It is because we need to change our attitude, and the culture of this country has allowed that to seep in. Now, you have a government which is hell-bent on developing this country. But if you don't regularize, if you don't get the police to act, we back to square one, because you're going to come back and deal with these people. People want to take bribes. People want to drive with tinted windows when they know that they're not supposed to be doing it. People go and they squat and they take up the reserves because somebody in the NDC allow them. But why Freddie Kissoon don't going to do it? If I tell you what happened to me in businesses, maybe one of these days I'm going to have the heart to tell you what one businessman tried to do to me. last year when I started business.
A very prominent business.
A very prominent businessman tried to shut my business down.
Oh. Well,
I haven't decided how to deal with that situation
I know
yet.
about that. And
Freddie Kissoon, this is what the
I know
rich and powerful are doing to the poor people in this country.
I wish, let me say this, right? I had a discussion with that man because I know what you're talking about and I know how powerful he is. If that man continues with that, I am going to speak to the president and ask the president to intervene. You cannot.
People get upset with you when you open your mouth and talk.
The way this country is going to develop. Look. Gildarie, there are some things in the life of a student that you never forget. Once you enter, it's a golden moment for you. You enter university, you're going to have a degree. And when you enter that university, the first few books you read, you never forget it. And then late at night at UG, at that time UG Library used to close at 11:30 in the evening. The last bus was 11:30. And two books I will never forget in my entire life when I entered UG as a freshman in 1974. It's a book called The Man on Horseback, about Banana Republic in Latin America. How these oligarchs can do anything they want, as what Banks DIH did, the traffic chief. And the second one was an article in a journal named Marxism Today, published by the British Communist Party, in which this Professor Alan Hunt, totally stripped down the laws of a country, of UK, and show you how insurance laws, banking laws, and all of those things are designed for the rich and the powerful. And I believe that one of the problems we're going to have in this country, as this country gets richer, and I'm talking now about the case, I know I'm your friend, so therefore I know what happened with that very prominent businessman. If we go to build an equitable society, we have to, whether Indian, African, Portuguese, Chinese, we have to help the small businessman that is coming up so the wealth could be spread. And I was very annoyed when you discussed with me what that very well-connected businessman was doing to a man who is now starting a business. And I think we could only have a successful future if the person who is selling her dal puri in Palawi, we help her by giving her a contract to supply dal puri and Palawi to this ministry or that thing. And in the end, wealth goes around.
You have to help the small. And Freddie, look, I don't think I've spoken to President Ali just before he became president, and I've spoken to the General Secretary, the Vice President, by Jack Dio. And it is not my belief that they want to leave a legacy in which they're accused of having a group of people around them who are going to become super rich while the rest of the people feeding off drops of.
But I don't think Ali and Nandalal, I
no.
could speak for two.
I don't, that doesn't strike me as that.
Often Ali and Nandalal, I've known Nandalal since he was in my class. I think those two ministers, those two leaders, are essentially juggernaut that want to see the elevation of people who are disadvantaged. I believe that about those two ministers. I cannot say I know the rest of ministers that well to make that kind of statement.
I saw recently a video. President Ali went and inspect, and this thing sent so many messages in my head. He went up the East Bank to inspect the roads, all those interconnecting roads, the 4 lanes and so that they're doing. And he was questioning the engineers and the senior officials of the Ministry of Housing. Why are the interconnecting roads to the main public road on the East Bank not completed as yet? And they're now telling the president, that we haven't even sent out a tender for it. I think that is what I heard. And the president turned and walk away because the guy has his head, this is the direction of the country, and you got to be on the same page. Gildarie got to be on the same page. Mr. President, I want to say to you that there are serious people in this country, people who want to see this country move forward. They want to work with you. They want to work with the opposition. They want to work. We don't care how it's going to be done, but we want to be proud that when we go to the United States, we go to Canada, we go to any parties or Timbuktu, if you want to say that. We should be able to boast to the people that this is our country. We have the biggest waterfall, single drop waterfall. We have St. George's Cathedral. We got the most beautiful city in this country. These are things that we hear. Freddie Kissoon and I have been, he's not going to say it. I've been doing this for 6 months. We haven't taken pay from anybody. We're not being sponsored from anybody. But we have to thank critic Michael Rodriguez for allowing us the studio, allowing us, his technical people, to be able to.
Well, I think we
very
should
possible.
not. I think we should not enter the new year without acknowledging that.
No, of course, and we have to. But the government would know, and I think Mr. Ali would know that they're decent people here. I've seen people who have been saying things, and people have never been more proud. Not only because of the oil, they've seen things that are happening. But guess what? Not all hands are on deck. And I did start this program here by saying, it's my big regret that the opposition can't find common grounds on certain things. We could agree to disagree, but there's so many things to agree on in this country. There's one common enemy that if you want to use that word, Freddie, the people that come in here, they want to take out your wealth. But at the end of the day, if we are to sit down at government and opposition and say, look, let's make sure we get a fair deal out of this. And if you could agree on that thing and sit down and hold one, and imagine the people looking at you, the two y'all together, your husband and wife, but they're fighting.
I don't know if I should say this. I don't think President Ali would be hurt if I say it. And the way the discussion went, I don't think he said to me, I'm speaking to you in extreme confidence. But a few days ago, I happened to run into him. And then I said to him, now, I hope all his ministers are listening. I hope all the embassy diplomats are listening. And I hope people listen. He said this to me. I ran into him, and when the discussion was going, I said, you got to come on the Gildarie Freddie Kissoon Show. You know, you promised me that twice. And he said, yeah. I'm going to India. I'm going to come when I come back to India. And when the discussion went on, this is what he said to me. Now, I don't think I don't think he'll be somewhat skin up erase his eyebrow if I said this. He said to me, President Irfan Ali said to me in person a few days ago, I want you to know that this is the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth, and I swear on my family. He said this. I'm not too much of a religious person. He said to me, listen, I intend to help small people, small businesses that need to be helped. And we have a program to give grants to those people. Please identify justified cases to me and let me know. He said that to me.
Well, I am glad, because those are good things for the small people in Guyana. When I say small people, entrepreneurs who want to.
So now you could convey your discoveries to me, and I will convey it to him.
Thank you very much. One of the things that also irked me last year, and I've seen this, I believe that we still have a far way to go, Freddie, when it comes to monitoring, supervising our infrastructure projects, and even within the various ministries, even the procurement side of things, the stories that I've been hearing. But it doesn't necessarily mean that because a contract has been issued that a minister got a hand in it. There's many times, if you hear or see some of the vehicles and see the homes that the engineers and the clerk of works and whoever, the REOs and the people who were down there driving, You got to see the kind of wealth that these people got, and I'm
The
not.
government
knocking
has to confront that.
No, but hold on. It's there, it's glaring in the face. But when you go to some of the actual supervision of the works, and we want to know why the roads are breaking up after a couple morning, there's no contract that exists in Guyana, and I would want to argue, that says put a 2-inch when you know a 3-inch is supposed to be there. It has to be that somebody put a 2-inch when a 3-inch is supposed to be there. That is what it is. So it means that the clerk of works or the engineer who's supposed to be supervising that work did not do the job. And this is where we need to start waking up. I start smelling the coffee. And if Freddie Kissoon, as an engineer, is corrupt, is not doing the job, we need to start naming Freddie Kissoon. It is very, how you say it? These are extreme measures. But guess what? Why should I be taking my taxpayer dollars, paying you, Freddie Kissoon, as an engineer, and you taking it and taking it right?
Time is going, and we want to get in as much as possible. But I hear you.
The time of 4 minutes. The time of 4 minutes.
They told you 4 minutes.
Yes,
now?
imagine that.
My man go peltier from 2022.
But you got
and
5 minutes, 6 minutes.
I'm keeping it.
We go 6 minutes with you then. His time is wrong.
No. His time is wrong. No, but listen. I hear all the time over the decades about police corrupt. Gildarie, you have no idea of some extremely wealthy people that don't pay taxes in this country.
You want to go there? There's another topic.
Gildarie, I know people that are renting houses, the Exxon officials, the embassy officials, in which their monthly take is in the vicinity of $50 million. They take from these buildings, from what these embassies pay them. And if you check the amount of taxes that come from self-employed.
It's not even declared, Freddie Kissoon.
So, we keep picking on the policemen, but rich people.
You hit it on the head.
Do you know property tax begins from $40 million? Do you know there are hundreds and hundreds of rich business people whose assets are in the billions? Property tax start from $40 million. You look at some of the wharfs in this country, some of the businesses in this country, a wharf alone, a Riverside wharf alone, is worth billions of dollars.
So you want to know why City Council is broke? You want to know why and who we blame in?
We have to start collecting taxes in this country.
Yeah, but why is it that I have to be suffering? And here is the issue that I have with that before you come take over. Freddie Kissoon, why I have to pay for it because a mayor is not functioning, a minister is not functioning, an REO is not functioning, an engineer is not functioning. You know how much money, a simple business as mine, I could give you an example as mine, if you see the taxes that I pay, because the accountant is not the thing. But hold on.
Oh, you pay tax? Look at
Freddie.
And I could tell you about the billionaires who don't.
No, and you're going to see there's a lot of big contractors who are earning in the billions. And when you say the books.
But if we collect taxes from these super wealthy people,
this country
policemen don't have to take.
Yeah, but this country won't even have to go to oil to just start getting it. But look, listen to me. It's not going to happen overnight. But these are issues that are burning, that is there. A lot of people not finished that. Freddie Kissoon, you got a couple minutes.
We can't. You're an exploiter. I'm not an exploiter. I always aware that we can't overwork these operators.
Yes.
If you leave you will go over the time and over time. That's because business people are exploiters, and you become a business.
I don't exploit.
Yeah?
My mom taught me differently.
We cannot go over time. There's too much to be said about 2022. I think what is emerging in 2022 is a mainstream press, that is out to criticize everything the government does. I'm in the media going into 35 years now, and I've always seen the press very critical of power, and then they balance it, they praise the opposition, they give credence to the government. But in 2022, I see the mainstream the mainstream media moving in the direction that I think is a rejection of all the sacred principles of journalism.
It is, and we got to be very careful in how we blur in the lines, or we decided that in the interest of what we term freedom of the press, that you don't abuse it. It's a very, very thin line. I could talk things, but social media, you could talk things, and you don't have a Facebook account, but how do you defend yourself against something like that? So there's a lot of stuff that it is going to stretch us to the limits, and we are going to have to address those matters.
For me, you said it, and for me, Michael Rodriguez, if you're looking at this program, Gildarie could speak for himself. I don't want to say on behalf of Gildarie, but maybe on behalf of Gildarie. We appreciate the resources that you have put at our disposal the past 6 months in making it possible not only to host this program, but to bring to the Guyanese people knowledge that they should be in possession of. And I like to say personally, I am thankful for that. We haven't paid you a cent, and we have your cameras, your equipment, your operators at our disposal. That was one of the positives of 2022. Thank you, Mikhail. I can't call you Guyanese critic, you know that. Thank you, Mikhail Rodriguez.
Thank you very much. And last year for me, one of the things that I would like us to expand on a little way, Freddie, is how CPL, I use that as an example, because when we look into the potential of this country, of where we should be, where we want to be, the CPL has really opened our eyes as to how we could get some other forms of money, entertainment, those things that the services industry in Guyana, big potential there. So not everybody could be in the oil industry, but start thinking, how could I make some money? You don't have to make $1 billion, but you could put something on your table, additional income. Don't take a 9-to-5 job only. Think of something that you could do, plant a little kitchen garden, do something. It is where this country is going to be exploding, or it has started exploding, and we have to be ready for that. So this is not a show in which we're going to pull punches. Sometimes we do that to show the respect, but it doesn't mean that we're not going to ask the questions. We will ask the questions, or we will criticize. It is what it's all about. I want to say good night to you folks. We'll continue the discussions as to where we believe our government is going to, what is it that they are expected to do, and of course the performance last year as well as that of the opposition. We need to do better, far better, between the opposition and the government. Civil society need to step up to the plate and start not agreeing with the government at all times, but they also have to start criticizing and start talking about the things that we need to move this country along to take it to the next level. I want to say good night to everybody who has joined us tonight. Happy New Year to you if you join us for the first time for the year. And I want to say thank you to my co-host Freddie Kissoon. As always, 6 months. Let's see where it goes. We're going to be back with you on Monday, even in the same place, same time. Have a pleasant rest of the night and safe weekend. If you're on the roadways, take care. We want to see better behavior, attitude on our roadways this year. Take care.